right, last time we joined you here on Cardinals Underground, it was week 11, otherwise known as the bye week. And we were still somewhat shocked in trying to process the referee call that included the words butt cheek.
Wow.
Feels like forever ago.
But because it can always get worse, it did during the bye week when you went from butt cheek audio to butt cheek video.
That's good, Paul.
That is good.
Way
He's
to
a
wrap it all
professional.
together.
Although I try and be judicious in adding to my power poll of ineptitude and incompetence, we do have two recent entries here in the last 3 weeks alone. Tyreek Stevenson move over because Netflix is now joining you alongside the Chicago White Sox, Ray Gun, the all-you-can-eat shrimp at Red Lobster. I can keep going here. The Secret Service, just off the top of my head. These are all recent examples of abject incompetence.
Is it Mike Tyson or the camera operator that's going on the list?
Now, as the camera operator, all of us have been in our share of locker rooms over the years. You just got to know. I mean, you got to know, obviously, the playing field. And, waist up, please. Waist up. It's real simple.
That fight, I can't believe I'm about to say this. Don't anybody clip this to take it out of context what I'm about to say, but in order to watch the fight, because Netflix, the stream was so horrible and kept lagging, thank goodness Antonio Brown was in the audience live streaming on Twitter because I was one of the 7 million people who watched the fight on his live stream.
The one moment that Netflix wasn't buffering, we got the naked, rumpled, wrinkled, naked rear end of Mike Tyson. I mean, and then of course the fight was. In fact, you guys can join if you want.
Also rumpled.
I have it right here. You guys can sign on to my class action lawsuit on behalf of viewers everywhere. Netflix owes us all our Friday night back. From beginning to end, we need our Friday night back from bye weekend. I mean, that was criminal misuse of our Friday night. Darren, you didn't see it? You didn't see the whole Mike Tyson?
I did. I was out in an event on Friday night. I got home right at 9. I'm thinking, I'm coming in just in time. And then, of course, the fight didn't happen for another hour.
Sure.
I tried to watch it on my television forever, and it buffered every 6 seconds. And I decided to try my phone, and my phone actually worked. So I watched it on my phone. Well, I mean, I did watch it. I regretted every moment of it when it was over, but I did watch it.
So the self-proclaimed king of all media, Howard Stern, said, hey, Netflix, you thought the blowback was bad with the Tyson fight? If you start messing with people's Christmas Day NFL programming, they're going to storm the castle. So Netflix has just over a month to figure out how they're going to handle probably even greater viewership for NFL
what we
games.
Got? Chiefs, Steelers, and what is the other game?
1 week at a time, Darren. I have no idea.
I'm sorry.
Don't ask me. I'm
1 week
taking
at
it
a
1 week at a time.
That's fair.
Okay.
Before we move
Your
forward,
day-to-day like Darius Robinson?
Before we move forward to this week, I do have an editor's note based off
editor's note.
based off last week's podcast.
Yeah.
When I went on my rant about many things at the end of the episode, one of them was about wearing the jersey of a team not playing. And a viewer had a very good comment that I want to piggyback off of. There are very few exceptions to wearing a jersey of a team that is not playing that you are in attendance of. The example they gave was wearing an Aaron Rodgers Packers jersey to the Cardinals-Jets game.
That's fair.
I agree. I do think that's fair when you've got, and I wouldn't even just say a player the caliber of Rodgers, but I think if you're going to spend money on a player's jersey and that player's coming to town, you know what? I can understand that as an exception to the rule. The other exception would be international games. If you are going to an international game and your team is not playing, I want to see you wear a jersey, whatever jersey you are a fan of. I think that's really cool. I love seeing that support. And I think that is one of my favorite things when seeing coverage of international games, is seeing how many different jerseys from the NFL are represented besides the two teams that are playing each other. Those are my two exceptions to the rule. So thank you to the listener, the viewer who had that comment. That was a very good point. Otherwise, I stand by everything I said.
I will say London 2017, I'm on the team bus, we're pulling in, and the site 4 hours before kickoff, tens of thousands of fans out there in every single NFL jersey. It was remarkable.
Yeah, I remember that.
To the point where Fitz literally got up and he's like shoving me aside. He's looking out the window. The players were even gawking out the team bus because they could not believe the fandom in the UK. And everyone in attendance had some sort of NFL gear on. I was astounded. I really was. I didn't know what to expect, but that definitely moved the meter. And you understand now why, by the way, Roger Goodell just last week said, here it comes, 16 international games tied to an 18-game regular season.
Was always coming.
We're taking it 1 week at a time, but I just thought I had zoom out.
I don't know why
for
they
one
don't do
moment
it
right
now
there.
with the 17-game schedule, and then everybody has 8, and one international game.
And that was the point, that there's no need to actually tie 16 international games to an 18-game regular
there
season.
Is because they
but
want
he's doing it
18 games
because he wants it. So in his mind, it's cause and effect, or he's going to tie the two together. But once again, we're just focused on this week, coming out of the bye week, going to Seattle. And
what did you do during the bye before we get to Seattle?
Because we know you didn't binge any TV.
Well, after there was no more TV all weekend after the Tyson fight on Friday night because that was such a waste of time.
So you just threw your TV out the window?
So, it was involved with some mental health away from football, although I did watch on Sunday afternoon, enough to know that there's some really bad tackling
Yes.
around the NFL.
This is true.
And I want to get into this a little bit later. Note for later, okay? I want to get into tackling
Paul
and how
wants to keep what he did under wraps.
that
He's just going to
applies
right over that.
to the Arizona Cardinals. Again, I didn't go anywhere I didn't have to go. So with that in mind, there is nothing of note for my bye weekend. And
Sometimes that's the best way to do it.
Dani, by the way, do I need to put the Cowboys Stadium? Because you were in Dallas over the weekend. Do I need to put that on the power pole of ineptitude? How does that work?
Yeah, that...
Yeah. Okay.
That when they say the sky is falling in Dallas, it's no longer just a metaphor.
Well, maybe instead of just complaining and griping and grousing, and I'm guilty more than most about that. Maybe we need to give some answers, Darren. Is there one here about it's about breathing? Is that the answer in life? About breathing?
I saw a story we need to be breathing more, Paul.
Breathing more.
There's good reason to pause and take deep breaths. Chronic unmanaged stress, which increases the risk of heart disease and stroke, can be harmful to our health. So,
I see.
Big deep breaths, Paul. Excuse me, I need to drink something.
It's interesting because as you get older, right, and you tend to wake up in the middle of the night, and 20 years of morning radio, getting up at 3:45. The old trick that I will use when you can't sleep is to just start breathing extremely deeply, and then hopefully that'll relax you enough where maybe, just maybe, you don't spend an hour and a half trying to fall asleep.
I don't think I'm giving away any state secrets, but I have noticed that one of the things that the kind of the new regime has brought to the team, if you go in the football area, there's signs around where the players walk around, and one of them is deep breaths, deep breathing, and deep breathing exercises.
Interesting. Okay.
So...
Right. There you go.
There you go.
So when the 12,
be like Max Melton, take deep breaths.
So
Dr. Darren.
When we're down on the sideline in Seattle, right, on Sunday, and the 12s are barking behind the bench, just breathe.
It's your favorite place.
Deeply, okay? Just breathe. By the way, I have a few predictions. I'll just get out of the gate for Sunday. Number one, Budda Baker having a career year, going back to his native Seattle. I have him down for 24 tackles, 24 tackles. Is that extreme? 24 tackles
bad,
in one game.
Paul. I'm going to say 20.
You think that would be bad?
Budda Baker with 24 tackles? Yes.
The guy...
As much as he's all over the field, your safety getting 24 tackles, all kinds of bad.
Once upon a time, he knocked out not one, but two Seattle running backs in the same game at Seattle. So there's that. By the way, how much do you think that the Seattle GM still rues the day he gave up 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams?
Where's Jamal Adams these days? Oh, that's right. I don't think he's anywhere, is he?
Yeah, he's sort of where Earl Thomas is.
He was cut by somebody.
My favorite Seahawk memory, thanks for asking, would probably be Earl Thomas being carted off the field at State Farm Stadium.
A home game.
And looking straight at Pete Carroll and giving him the bird.
See, that's disappointing.
The Earl
Paul.
of Middle Finger, as we called him. The Earl of Middle Finger.
You were star of a Folktales episode of a game in Seattle, which everybody should go watch about the
That was really
Drew
great work
Stanton
by you,
dance.
Paul.
No, I'm still bitter we got ripped off for the Emmy.
You didn't win an Emmy for that?
Congrats to the Emmy winners, the Arizona Cardinals.
That's true. Bird napped.
Yeah, we got nominated, did not win. There's still so Paulie protest
terrible.
over that one. Yeah, that was.
I mean, I can remember is that shot where you're looking into the Gatorade container. That was.
I remember watching you film that from the radio booth, Darren and I on that first pregame show watching you film on the field.
That was one take. Every single shot was one take because you had about 13 seconds between the rehearsals and the pregame. And it's so loud in that stadium. Anyway,
for people curious, you can find that on YouTube. Drew Stanton's dance or whatever it was called.
I think James Conner will be.
I think it was the Stanton Shuffle.
Stanton Shuffle. There you go.
Very loud in this game as well. And Trey Benson, the Seattle bottom 5 run defense. I have the Cardinals cramming it vertical in this one for 237, to be specific. And then Dani, my last prediction.
Please clip that, Omo. Thank you.
My last prediction will be: I think this is the year finally, and you probably heard me say this before, that there will be a Starbucks on the sideline at the Seahawks Stadium, because it's got to be the last 100 yards worth of real estate in Seattle without a Starbucks. So at some point, it's inevitable they will expand and put a location right on the sideline.
They serve Starbucks coffee in the press box.
It's true.
Does that count?
Wolf gets his own pot of coffee. Wolf's reputation precedes him, and now the fine service folks in the press box give Wolf his own pot of coffee.
Wow.
Yes. I do enjoy going to Seattle for that. And I was never a big coffee drinker, and then I started doing it more in Seattle, and now I just do it. Yeah.
Okay, so where are we going to start on the Arizona Cardinals? Coming out of the bye, the Arizona Cardinals in the lead all by themselves in the NFC West. Am I out of line? And I'll repeat what I said earlier. At this point in the season, 7 games to go. Down the stretch they come, to use a horse racing term. In my opinion, the Arizona Cardinals should win the division. It's no longer could win, it's should win. When you look at how things are set up now, when you look at the Cardinals' schedule, when you look at the state of the division, meaning the other 3 teams who I do believe are inferior right now to the brand of ball the Cardinals are playing, do I need to pump my brakes on that one? Because that's what I see straight ahead.
I don't think you need to pump your brakes on that. I think that is a very fair thought to have. The Cardinals have been playing excellent football. They're on a 4-game win streak. The thing that is tricky about the NFC West when you're talking about the Rams, the 49ers, and the Seahawks is they have all proven that they can find a way to get it done. Even if they have a few bad games or they're playing from behind, all of these teams, all these organizations have proven over the last few years that they can be scrappy enough and they can come back and they can win some games. That's what's tricky. Should the Cardinals win the division at this point with how they're playing? Yes. They can't get in their own way. You cannot go backwards. You cannot have a slow start coming off the bye week because while every game is important, this is a divisional game. And when you've got a division where 3 teams are right behind the Cardinals tied at 5-5, they really do matter. And this is going to be a crucial game. And the fact that the Cardinals play the Seahawks twice in 3 weeks, I would expect this to be a little scrappy.
If the Cardinals, I want to know both your opinions on this. If the Cardinals go 2-2 in the division the rest of the way, do they win the division?
Yes. They have Carolina. They have New England. Now at Minnesota, that's a tough putt. I would say yes. You're 2-0 right now. You go 4-2 in the division, considering the other opponents left. Yes.
I agree, especially when looking at the rest of the division's schedules.
I'm optimistic. I will say the Patriots are playing better. They have to come here, but Drake May is playing better football. Obviously, the trip to the Panthers should be a win, but the Cardinals have always gotten sideways in Carolina for whatever reason.
Facts.
And the Minnesota game, I think it can be a toss-up, but again, that's a road game. This weekend I'm really curious about. I mean, the Seahawks were really sliding, and then they pulled out that win. How do they feel about it? I mean, the reality is if the Cardinals go to Seattle and lose this weekend, all of a sudden Seattle's in first place.
All right, so here's the question Good Morning Football posed. They did a big segment on the Cardinals, and the question they threw out there, who is the biggest threat to the Cardinals in the NFC West? Right now, as it stands, Cardinals 6-4, the other 3 teams 5-5 apiece. Who's the biggest threat to the Cardinals in the NFC West? Dani?
49ers are a bit banged up. Seahawks are not as consistent as the Rams, so I'm going to go with LA.
I would go with LA as well. I reverse engineered it, and I sort of did the same process. And I'll throw out there the fact that they did this last year, started 3-6, and ended up making the playoffs, and had a very close loss at Detroit in the playoffs. McVay finds a way, inevitably. They just have this way of making themselves relevant and competitive.
For me, I would probably lean, at this point, towards the Rams for what you just said. And because the 49ers schedule is so brutal the rest of the way. Normally I would say 49ers, but their schedule the rest of the way is harsh.
By the way, the godsend for the Rams so far has been their first 2 picks in the draft, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. I saw one recent evaluation. They had them 1-2 in the race for NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year.
They're pretty good.
What if the Cardinals, though, in Week 7 have a full-blown Darius Robinson ready to roll by the time you get to Week 17? Hey, Sean McVay, taste this. Here you go. It's the Cardinals' own first-round rookie defensive lineman.
That would be nice. It's 1 week at a time, Paul.
One day at a time, Dani.
One day at a time. Darius Robinson practice and a bonus practice Monday. Typically, there is no practice. Coming off the bye week, there was one. Robinson practiced Monday.
You guys saw it? What did it look like?
He looked good. It's a funny reminder because he hasn't even been out there. He hasn't practiced since October 9th, and he hasn't even been out there for stretching in quite some time. So it's a bit of a shock to remember, this is a very big guy. Like, he is tall, he is strong, he is built. And then you see he looks good. He wasn't wearing a sleeve on his calf. He was going through the drills. He was jogging between the drills. He was absorbing the information and the coaching from his teammates, from his coaches. He looked good. That's not to say, even if Robinson has an entire week of practice, he'll be ready to play. He hasn't played football in months.
Ready to play this week.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification. There's a very good chance.
Also, the whale is dead. I want to clarify that.
Anything
one too.
else?
No, that's good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry.
There's a good
Dani,
chance.
at this moment, how much would you like to just, bull rush Darren? I mean, at this very moment.
Well, you also interrupted me, Paul. So.
Oh, no. Oh, jeez. All right, she's going to split the double team then.
Come on.
Here we go.
It's my fault.
Darius Robinson very well could take a couple of weeks of practice before he is ready to play in a game. He has not played football in a very long time. He's a rookie. He doesn't have the veteran experience to be able to come back in. There's a chance he's able to play sooner and have a smaller role on game day, and we can see that expand as he gets more comfortable. I would expect that there is a grace period. It's a different position, a grace period the same way we have been giving Marvin Harrison Jr. in his rookie year. Still a good sign to see Robinson out at practice. That's the best thing you could see at this point, is to see him out at practice.
I mean, he didn't, Dani mentioned he wasn't wearing anything on it. He didn't look like, if you just made him Joe Blow and you didn't know he was Darius Robinson, you wouldn't think this was a guy that had been hurt. So that's a plus. Now, again, what does that mean in terms of this week? I don't know. Do you want to get him a couple of weeks before you actually make him active for a game? That's very possible. I won't be completely surprised if he plays this weekend, but there is a part of me that does not expect him to play this week. But we'll see. I do think Jonah Williams is going to be back.
Ooh, okay. All right, let's go there. Because if you made me bet, I'm thinking Darius Robinson does not play this week, and maybe Minnesota is more realistic.
Right.
But Jonah Williams, because there was an actual roster move.
Not yet. But it's going to have to be. We're recording this on a Tuesday. I believe Wednesday is the day his 21 days are up. So he's going to have to be put on the roster.
Okay.
So and as we're recording this, the roster move, there was a roster move made it was
67.
The Cardinals releasing Charlie Heck, the offensive lineman.
There you go.
So you have a spot open.
Okay.
So, I do think Jonah Williams is going to be available. Again, no guarantee that he's active for the game, but he's in a different kind of deal than Darius Robinson, and he has been practicing since he was activated. So I would think he's going to be ready.
To the crowd wondering why you would play Jonah Williams at right tackle over Kelvin Beachum, who has stepped up since Williams hurt his knee week 1 in Buffalo, they brought Williams in free agency to be a starting offensive lineman. There's a reason for that. That doesn't take away from the great play that Beachum has played and the rest of that offensive line. They're playing with Tristan Colon and Isaiah Adams at right guard after losing starter Will Hernandez. That group has done a very nice job, Beachum included. I would expect that when Williams is ready to go and he feels comfortable being back out there, he'll be the starting right tackle because that's what they brought him out here for. That's what they paid him to do, and then Beachum would be your swing tackle.
I mean, to have Kelvin Beachum, who literally can fill in any spot on that line, is an invaluable thing.
Absolutely.
So, and at the same time, Beach has been playing some really good ball. I can't tell you how many times when it was to our sideline that he was tying up Hassan Reddick one-on-one with regularity. I mean, Hassan Reddick, what did he end up with in this last game?
I forget what it wasn't anything.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we talked about it last week. Like, I didn't even realize he was there. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a good sign. Now the Seahawks got their right tackle. He returned Abe Lucas, and that made a big difference. They actually got better pass protection on Geno Smith. So you know what? If the Seahawks can get their right tackle to return, then the Cardinals can do the same thing. So we'll see if that's the way it's tracking. Although, if there's one game that's more difficult than most, it's at Seattle with the crowd noise and the silent count. And there have been games where the Cardinals O-line has struggled at Seattle because the defensive linemen, they're getting off the ball. There's no real advantage to knowing the snap count like there usually is if you're an offensive lineman. You can't get that half step, advantage off the snaps. So we'll see. I will say this, though, that for Kyler Murray and the way he's playing right now, and we had a chance on JG's TV show to talk a little bit in depth about and have him assess Kyler Murray. And I asked him the question, do you think he's slowed down in the pocket? Sort of the Kurt Warner video. And his answer was no, but I do think he's trusting a little more, trusting his pass protection and trusting the receivers to be where they need to be. So I think our speculation over the first half of the season that when
Carson Palmer, Bruce Arians effect?
Yes. That when Jonathan Gannon would say the details in the passing game need to improve, details was code for, okay, young receivers, be in the right place at the right time to help out your quarterback.
You can see that trust. Absolutely. And how it's grown the last few weeks. There's a handful of plays that show that. In Miami, that big third down when Murray throws the ball before Harrison even broke his route and put in the right place at the right time. There was a touchdown at State Farm Stadium against the Jets. The same situation, threw it when Harrison's hands were still on a defender's body, knowing Harrison would get free and be in the right spot at the right time. And that's beyond Harrison. That's with his receivers as a whole. Murray has done a very nice job staying poised and calm in the pocket, not feeling rushed, and making the right play. He's been very smart, very safe with the ball, and his accuracy is really coming into play. It's been a nice progression, not just with Murray, but the offense as a whole and how they have really improved week to week.
So he's up there for comeback player of the year? Is that correct?
Yeah, it was funny. It was sparked. Kyler for comeback player of the year was sparked by a mailbag question that said, did I think Kyler could win comeback player of the year? And I knew he could be. I double checked I knew there had been some clarification on the comeback player of the year. That had to do with the Joe Flacco winning it last year. The intent is for somebody coming back from either great personal situation or an injury that made you miss significant time the year before.
Or die,
yes.
I think that was a big reason why they changed the wording.
She's talking about DeMar Hamlin and not the whale. And anyways, and Joe Flacco won it basically because, the Browns decided to get the corpse of Joe Flacco and he ended up playing really well. So they kind of clarified. So, and obviously Kyler did come back last year, but he missed half the season. And Kirk Cousins has been one of the guys that most people thought was going to win. Well, Kirk Cousins missed. I don't even know if Kirk Cousins missed as much time as Kyler did last year. I'm not 100%
I thought Cousins got hurt late in the season.
Well, maybe he did, but he's a guy coming off a significant injury, but he's the betting favorite. Not that we talk a lot about betting here, and not that we would ever do that, Dani. But it did look like the odds are now swaying in Kyler's favor to be in the mix, along with other people. Joe Burrow got hurt last year. DeMar Hamlin's still in there. But Kyler apparently is somebody who they're talking about could possibly win, which I hadn't given much thought to, especially when we start talking about maybe him being in the MVP race, but I guess so.
Was J.K. Dobbins, was that last year?
No, Dobbins got hurt, so he's another guy that's in
Nick
the
Chubb.
mix. Chubb is in the mix, yes.
Lots of knees.
Hey, first off,
Lots of knees.
Joe
He's
Flacco.
got a knee.
Flacco took a stray there from Darren. I mean, he led the Browns to the playoffs last year, Darren.
It was fantastic.
I mean, put a little respect on that stray. And
that voodoo magic getting him back on the field.
Can I say this? Okay, comeback player of the year, that's great. Where's Kyler in the MVP race? That's what I want to know. Because if he takes the 4-win Cardinals to a division crown and he has 12 touchdown passes and 3 picks, Geno Smith, meanwhile, has 11 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. So Kyler's doing a great job of taking care of the football right now. As Drew Petsy noted, you know what? One of those interceptions was a tip ball as well off the receiver's hands. So that being the case, I mean, is Kyler anywhere to be seen in the MVP chase right now, according to all the betting odds?
He is, because I've seen his. I don't know the numbers because I'm not looking on betting sites because we're not allowed to, but he is in the conversations from what I have seen online.
I don't know what the betting odds are. For me, for MVP, it's more of like, okay, what's the vibe? What's more of the
Darren goes
vibe?
off vibes.
I mean, I understand the betting odds, but I mean, realistically, where we sit right now, do I think Kyler Murray is an MVP favorite? I do not.
Favorite, no.
Now, if he ends up, if the Cardinals win 11 or 12 games and he repeats what he's done so far, but here's the problem with the Kyler MVP talk. If they go out and win a game like they did against the Bears and he has pedestrian numbers, that's not good enough. Just winning the games is not going to be good enough. Not if Lamar Jackson wins 12 games and has sparkly stats.
All I know is NFL.com the other day, I looked at it coming off this past weekend, and in their QB power index, they had Kyler number 11 behind Baker Mayfield. So there's a long way to go in terms of the national narrative as to just how well Kyler is playing.
You should put that list on your
That's right.
incompetence
That's
list.
Right. That's right. Those guys are on warning, all right? You have a 1 week, sort of notice to get it right. Or else.
Baker's played pretty well, though.
Yeah, not bad. All right. Speaking of bad and poor performances, this seems like a good time to segue. I got some extra sleep over bye weekend, so maybe just maybe my power of recall and memory will be that much better to somehow not get embarrassed in yet another edition of...
It's time for The Wise Guy, the world's fastest growing Cardinals quiz show. The stakes are low, the winner gets absolutely nothing. Here's your hostess with the mostest, Dani Sureck.
Everybody, welcome in. Darren, reigning champion.
Yes.
You are up 9-2 on Paul this season.
Did you want to talk about picks yet, Danny?
No, I did not.
Okay, we can talk about that after Wise Guy.
We don't have to.
We don't have to, but we're gonna.
Dani, it's 1 week at a time. We don't care about the standings, and it was bye week, so we forget about it. It's a new season. Let's go.
I'm going to pick number 3, Danny.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Didn't Darren go first last time?
Well, he won, so he got to choose the order.
Oh,
That's how it works,
It's like
Paul.
pick up basketball.
I'm pretty sure you
it's
went
like
first
you
last
make
week.
the shot
Make
and
her
pick up
stay.
If you
basketball.
want to say you need to win, here we go. To the delight of Paul Calvisi. That is actually written in the question. I'm not making that up.
How can this not be my question?
To the delight of Paul Calvisi, the Seahawks refer to their fans as the 12s.
Oh,
In 2005, the Hawks were involved in a trademark infringement lawsuit brought on by this school regarding the use of the term 12th man.
come on.
Texas A&M,
Golly.
to the delight of Paul Calvisi.
It's brilliant marketing because the 12s buy their own gear and the team gets all the profit because you don't have to split it with the players. As the 12 isn't the number of any player. It's just you branded the fans their own gear and then you sell it right back to them.
Do the Seahawks have a jersey number 12?
It's
Do you know?
marketing brilliance. I have no idea.
Okay.
Here
Paul,
we
pick
go.
a number.
Maybe Omo can send me that at some point.
You know what? We're confident coming out of the bye. We're going to go number 1.
The NFL has a robust record book that helps tell the story of the league. However, there are some records players want no part of. This former Cardinals and Seahawks player has the 3rd most fumbles in NFL history. Can you name him?
Former Seahawk. 3rd most fumbles in NFL history? Okay. Any question that starts with the word robust, I know I'm in trouble. Let's see here. Sean Alexander could be viable. He touched the ball a lot. Didn't have a long career. Jim Zorn, he was always running around like a crazy man. Frank Tarkington. Third most fumbles. Russell Wilson.
Really? No.
We're going to go with Dave Craig.
Correct.
How did you pull former Cardinals quarterback Dave Craig out of there?
153 career
Because
fumbles.
she said this former Seahawk and Cardinals player.
Oh, and Cardinals player? I missed
Come
that
on,
part
Paul.
of it. Oh my gosh, I was still thrown by the word robust.
Brett Favre.
Come on, man.
Brett Favre is the most with 166, and then Warren Moon with 161.
Well, my ADD and listening skills doomed my answer on that one.
Come on.
I blame
Brutal.
Cheeto.
2 or 4?
4,
Darren?
please.
This former Seahawks tight end played the 2014 season in Arizona and scored 1 touchdown for the Cardinals. However, he may be best known for his training camp quote and then about then Cardinals rookie tight end Troy Nicholas, quote, "He looks like a 12-year-old boy that swallowed a grizzly bear."
Well, number one, fantastic quote, and I can see his face, and he retired in the middle of the offseason, and I'm drawing a blank on his name.
I mean, I literally was there when he said that quote, and I'm trying to remember.
I know his first name, and I'm drawing a blank on
A
his
former Seahawks tight end who played for the Cardinals in 2014 had this quote about then Cardinals rookie tight end Troy Nicholas: "He looks like a 12-year-old boy that swallowed a grizzly bear."
I cannot remember his last name, and I'm very upset with myself. Very upset.
Jeff King.
It's John. John. I don't remember.
It's not John. It's John Carlson.
Carlson, son of a.
Oh, come on.
Woo!
Oh,
Man.
okay. All right.
That was very
Yeah,
frustrating.
That's disappointing on multiple levels.
Here's your question, Paul.
Okay, here we go. Am I still in this? Or have,
No.
have I been mathematically eliminated?
Unless you can somehow convince Darren to change his mind to do winner takes all. You're not in this, but we'll continue. Here we
Playing
go.
for pride. Here we go.
In 1995, this former Cardinals defensive back had a 72-yard pick six to defeat the Seahawks in overtime, 20-14. He is the uncle of the famous Seahawks running back who liked to, quote, "taste the rainbow." Name both players.
Okay. I'm going to go Lorenzo Lynch and Marshawn Lynch.
Correct. Lorenzo Lynch is the uncle of Marshawn.
Of course, it doesn't matter because I've already been mathematically eliminated and lost.
Typically, I'd like to do the tiebreakers for fun. However, since we play the Seahawks again,
Yeah,
not
we're
going
gonna
to do the
Good call.
tiebreakers to
Good
save
call.
them.
So I'm just going to walk away with a victory.
You are. Congratulations, 10-2.
You know another place I might walk away with a victory.
No.
Dan?
No way. No way.
I went 11-3 in the picks this week.
Big whoop.
Paul went 10-4. Danny went 8-6. So the current standings for anybody keeping track at home, and if you're not, that's just disappointing. I have a 105-51 record.
Mm-hmm.
Paul nipping at my heels at 104-52.
Note to self, spend more than 30 seconds making your picks, Calvisi.
And Dani eating our dust at 91-65.
I continue to blame Aaron Rodgers. I went against what I said, which was I was done picking the Jets. And what did I do this week? I picked the Jets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the Jets had Garrett Wilson, former teammate of Marvin Harrison Jr. Here's my segue. The Seahawks have Jackson Smith and Jigma, former teammate of Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State. What do you expect in the final 7 games from the 4th pick overall? Because I think anybody who has watched every single snap of every single Cardinals game, his entire NFL career, like we all have, do we all agree if there's one thing we can agree on? There is much more upside on Marvin Harrison Jr. as a playmaker in this offense going forward. Is there not?
We're going to continue to see a rise of Harrison. He's going to continue to ascend these final few games in the backstretch of the season. The miscommunication and the timing that we saw that were leading to some problems early on in the season happens when you're a rookie in the NFL. For every position, there is a grace period of having the game slow down, understanding the playbook, and the nuances of going from college to the pros. We have seen the last handful of weeks on a consistent level Harrison step up, and you can see the switch. You can see it's now slowing down in his head. He's not thinking as much. He's in the right place at the right time. He is making some contested catches where he's got a few defenders on him, or he's getting hit as soon as he gets the ball, and Murray is still throwing it because that trust is there. we're going to continue to see a rise these final few games of Harrison, who is getting pretty close to breaking the record for rookies in this franchise for receiving touchdowns. He's at 7. What's the record?
He's at 6.
He's at
the
6,
record
8.
is 8.
We've got, 7 games left?
I know you're all over this stat. I only wish you could bring it up in a press conference. I think Marvin Harrison, I think he's going to continue to get better, Paul, and there's no question about that. I don't know if he gets all the way there this year. I mean, we're going to see. I mean, it's possible. I thought it was interesting when Jonathan Gannon a couple weeks ago said that the passing game starts with Trey McBride. He's the one the passing game revolves around, or I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said that. I don't think it's incorrect, but it's interesting to hear that when you've got Marvin Harrison out there. But I think he's going to get better. I think what he's doing with Kyler is only going to improve, and you've seen it get better with him and with Kyler playing just steadier football from the pocket too. So I don't have any reason to think it's not going to improve. What we really haven't talked about, and I thought it was interesting when Michael Wilson brought it up this week when he talked, was that the bye comes at essentially the end of a college season, and now you can kind of buck up for the rest of it. We haven't talked about the rookie wall, or whether Marvin or any of these other rookies that are playing a lot, if they could suffer a little bit of that. That's something we'll have to be curious about, because again, this is a much longer grind than these guys are used to.
That was the reason for a lot of the non-participation at the combine and pre-draft stuff, was to preserve his body.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Preserve
You're right.
and stay healthy and make it through this season.
That's absolutely right.
If there's a rookie that's going to have any idea what it takes, it's going to be a rookie whose dad is a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
The other thing is, guess what? You had Paris Johnson Jr. a year ago playing every single snap of every single game. Ain't no stinking rookie wall for Paris Johnson Jr., Ohio State All-American, just like Marvin Harrison Jr. And to Dani's point, it's a good point. He worked the entire offseason to be ready for the rigors of a 17-game regular season and hopefully a playoff game. Now, is he going to get fat this week against Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen? I mean, arguably the best part of the Seahawks team, even beyond the Seahawks receivers, are those two corners.
Think about some of the cornerbacks Harrison's gone up against and beat and looked good.
Yeah,
Jalen Ramsey in Miami.
Jalen Johnson with Chicago.
Sauce Gardner.
So Devin Witherspoon, though, I'll say this. Jalen Ramsey's a dude, and he plays really physical, and he hits really hard. Devin Witherspoon is one of the few corners in that same class in terms of hard hitting, pound for pound, will absolutely bring the lumber against you. So that's going to be not only an interesting matchup for this week, but twice in 3 weeks, and maybe the next decade. Devin Witherspoon against Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, that's true. And Witherspoon didn't have a great start to his season, but he seems like he's coming around.
Yeah, it seems like he's playing really well right now.
Quick throw-in, Omo came through. Seahawks, of course, don't have anybody wearing the jersey number 12 because it's been retired, Paul.
Okay.
By the fans?
For the fans.
For the fans.
In honor of the fans.
I kind of love that.
So we can sell them their own gear.
I think
do?
that's cool.
That's
yeah,
brilliant.
I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's really
it's so
good.
iconic
Okay.
to them.
It is iconic, except
it's good.
Texas A&M said, no, it's not to them.
Yeah.
It's just, okay.
They've convinced the Seahawk fans that they're truly a factor in the game. You know, if they want to believe that, they let them believe it. You know what I mean? And use their credit card as part of that.
You know that, Paul. I know they heckle you down the sideline.
I've been echoing.
No. See, I was going to bring up a little factoid about Seattle, and then
let's go.
I realized
let's go.
It might end up on a quiz later, and then I can answer it and win again. So I'll have to hold off.
Okay.
I'll bring it up next time the Cardinals play Seattle.
So 2 weeks.
Maybe. If it's not in Wise Guy.
I have another observation about this Cardinals team. And it has to do with
Please tell us, Paul.
practice. Man, I brought this up with Kyle Vandenbosch and Craig Grillo, and I'm going to reiterate that I think, and Jonathan Gannon has made mention twice in the last 3 weeks, twice in the last 2 weeks, that they are, quote, pushing the needle, end quote, at practice. And that they came out on Monday, the bonus Monday, out of the bye weekend, getting ready for Seattle, quote, "We are practicing today like it's a competitive training camp." Now, there are plenty of teams around the NFL who start to really taper off on practice intensity this time of year. As you get into late November, into December, most NFL practices, especially the new CBA rules, resemble more of a glorified walkthrough. And we agreed at some of the horrendous tackling in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You did bring that up.
And you know what? I think a lot of that you can directly correlate and attribute to practice. Man. And the Cardinals, I think, better than most teams, I don't know if there's an analytic out there for this, breaking tackles and making tackles. I think the Cardinals separate themselves from a lot of teams, especially in the last month, at both. Not only do they have the leader in the NFL in James Conner, I don't know where he's at right now, and broken, missed tackles, forced, whatever the analytic is. He was a runaway leader going into
you mean the
going
stat?
into
I
the
thought
Jets.
for a minute there,
stat.
I'm like, he's probably at home right now. But
He's not currently breaking tackles
Okay,
midweek.
got it.
Okay. And then just in terms of a Cardinals defense that is just very sound in tackling. And you think, okay, really? And how do you, but all you have to do is watch that 49ers Seahawks game, and how many Niners made the mistake of going high on Kenneth Walker, losing that battle. That's why it was either Nick Rollis or Jonathan Gannon already this week said, you got to tackle him around his legs, because otherwise he's just going to shake you, sort of like what Trey McBride did to Sauce Gardner.
yes. Well, I mean, some of this is, that's what makes Budda Baker so great.
Yep.
Because he knows to go low and take out their legs. And amazingly, players find it very hard to run when their legs are being hogtied by a defender.
So
what happens if Baker ends up having
24
2
tackles.
dozen tackles?
I will bring Paul Calvisi 2 dozen donuts.
How about that? And then Paul has to eat all of them on the podcast.
Yes.
I think what would be more appropriate is Darren just vacates his 10 wins and wise guy. That would be a
Or-
more
or-
fitting.
Then
or
it
he
would take.
takes-
Then
why
I'd
does
have
he
to.
just-
It'd take me 3 weeks to
I
get the
think
lead
he should
again.
take 10 wins off his
Oh man.
record for
Yeah.
the picks.
Well, you didn't say he was getting 2 dozen tackles. Paul did. Paul deserves
No,
all
but
the plaudits.
if Baker does pull that off, I will agree with Paul, and I will also deserve something.
So once again, the disappointing part of the Seahawks is they're not actually in last place anymore. Because again, my favorite headline recently was 2 weeks ago. Geno Smith and the Seahawks ride their pass-happy offense to the NFC West cellar. That was an outstanding headline that I thoroughly enjoyed. By the way, their starting center going into the Niners game just retired
Yeah.
out of nowhere, and they cut a starting linebacker who was like their starting Mike linebacker and had started all 9 games, and they cut him. So there's some interesting dynamics going on with the Seahawks, sort of like with the 49ers, where you had Deebo Samuel physically attacking the long snapper on the sideline 2 weeks ago. This is what I mean by when you look at the rest of the NFC West, there's
a lot in front of you.
Yeah, there's one team ascending that seems to be very businesslike, and there's 3 other teams that have a lot of drama not associated with football.
Connor Williams, a former Dallas Cowboys draft pick.
Oh, the center that
The
retired.
center that retired
Wait,
mid-season.
what's the drama that the Rams have?
Well, that's a good question.
I mean, other than injuries, that
gotta be,
doesn't
other than
count.
their head coach appearing in those soup commercials, trying to motivate America and giving the workforce a pep talk. I mean,
like
we're all
when
sick
Dan
of that.
Campbell does those. The commercials.
When who does?
Dan Campbell's in a bunch of commercials.
It's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, is there a commercial out there without Travis Kelce or his brother in it?
No.
By the way,
that's
Paul,
what-
I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will lose this week after playing the Lions. I'm going out on a limb and saying
I'm
that.
saying that.
Did either of you guys, this is random, but now as we're talking about commercials, did either of you, I typically don't always watch the Manning cast, but J.J. Watt was on
I saw
Monday
some
night.
clips. I did not watch it directly.
He's always so good.
I tried
Such
to
a
watch
natural on
it.
those
Jim
things.
Gaffigan was on. He was talking over all the plays. It was a tough watch. I changed the channel. I should have come back for J.J. Watt.
I liked when Peyton and Eli Manning were talking about how JJ and TJ have the most sacks combined amongst brothers, more than 200. And then he stole the thunder by saying that the Manning brothers had been sacked the most by any brothers, by more than 700 sacks taken by the two of them combined.
A lot of sacks.
Pretty crazy.
Okay. That's yeah, it's good to be J.J. Watt these days. He's got his own set of commercials.
I was
going to
say, I've been seeing him
my
everywhere too.
Goodness. Okay. All right. Well, look, is there anything else in here? Any other vitriol you want to throw out? Any other bulletin board material about the Seahawks? Are we really buying a Seahawks team that started 3-0, by the way, and really beat up on inferior competition and rookie quarterbacks out of the gate. They barely beat Denver with Bo Nix in week 1. They then beat New England 23-20 with Jacoby Brissett, and then they went 3-0. They beat a Miami team with Skylar Thompson and Tim Boyle. They lost 5 out of 6. They came back. They figured out a way to beat the Niners minus Nick Bosa. Is it okay if I don't buy the Seahawks?
I mean, couldn't you make some of these arguments for the Cardinals wins? Barely beating teams without people, and
I don't know, Darren. You elaborate there.
I'm just saying, like, I'm not trying to take anything away from the Cardinals, but I know this: you're going to Seattle, which can be a difficult place to play, and the Seahawks now know that no matter how much they derailed there for a little bit, the win over the 49ers puts in a position to be in first place if they beat the Cardinals.
I have another prediction. It just came to me here. Okay, so one Budda.
How many tackles is Max
How many
Melton
donuts are you
getting?
getting?
Budda.
Who's following DK Metcalf?
Budda, 24 tackles. James Conner and the Cardinals
Oh, yeah,
cram it vertical,
230.
237.
Yeah, you don't get any donuts for that.
Starbucks on the south sideline. And number 4, DJ Dallas, at least 3 fights against his former team.
That's a good one.
I have that down here, too. So those
Is he
are
going to go beast mode on special teams?
Paulie prop bets. So I had to throw that out there and see if people go over/under on some of these.
It'll be fun
figures.
to see his former teammates try to tackle him, because that's something special teams coordinator Jeff Rodgers mentioned when Dallas signed in Arizona, was how happy he was that his team was no longer going to have to try and bring Dallas to the ground.
That's right. I'm going to yell at the 12s. Kick the ball to DJ Dallas. We don't want any touchbacks.
What about your guy in the corner?
Oh, yeah.
With the
sign
posters,
guy.
and they're
That's
always
right.
misspelled on purpose.
Oh, yeah. On purpose? You think so?
Yes.
You just think he's unintelligent?
Every sign just has a major misspelling.
I've heard some of his conversations.
Oh, dear.
Don't think he has a
He
PhD
really likes
in
to
English.
heckle our group as well, our camera operators, sideline
he does.
reporters.
Yeah.
Because my first time out in Seattle a couple years ago, he was like, "Hey, I don't recognize you," and kept heckling me, and I'm like, "Oh boy, this is fun."
Yeah.
Remember when Carson Palmer brought his 3 close friends to the game just so he could gesture to them at the end?
That's right. Yes, there was that. There was 6'8" Calais Campbell walking by and snagging one of the guy's signs because he was looking this way. Calais came that way and then just went.
Yeah, this guy's right on the corner.
Oh, it's beautiful. What I don't like, though, is if you watch some of the other visiting teams that come in, he's a thing with opposing head coaches.
Yeah, he is.
Other head coaches will go over there. They dap him up. And
that
I'm
bothers
like,
you?
come on. No, I mean, where's the competitive fire?
Don't do the wave.
Right.
Don't go dap up an opposing fan.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, quick. The wave, 2 of the places that got really popular originally in the States, because there's arguments that it might have happened in other continents, was Detroit Tiger games in '84 and University of Washington football games in the '80s.
Really?
Yeah. So that might. It's funny that you bring up the wave in Seattle. Also, are you guys going to be dressed appropriately?
Oh boy.
It's not supposed to get above 49 degrees while we're there.
Okay.
I'm gonna have
Well,
to change what I thought
not.
I was gonna wear. Is it gonna rain?
It might rain Saturday.
Okay, what about Sunday? I guess
Currently,
you never know in Seattle.
you never know. You just never know.
Oof.
I don't want Dani getting sideways, upset about what she's wearing.
Thanks. That would never happen.
That would never happen.
By the way, I always thought the wave was Crazy George, the old Oakland A's super fan. I would put Crazy George, if anyone knows that reference.
Isn't that the tweet I sent you? I saw over the weekend.
Yeah, you sent it to me. And the guy said, "I'm not. I would normally ask for sources, but this guy's name is Crazy George. He must."
Crazy George from the A's games.
Turn it
Raiders.
for the cameras. Turn it for the cameras.
What are we?
What are we? There, you know, Crazy George. It might be too big, NorCal specific for that one.
No,
I always
that's
thought he was
okay.
attributed for the.
But like, what time frame? Like,
it would have been late '70s, early '80s.
Okay.
You know,
maybe.
So okay, that's all right.
Is Seattle? Is that close to your family? I guess no, because they're still more the Bay Area.
No, thankfully no.
I don't know geography enough.
I'm just glad I don't own.
Clearly.
I'm glad I don't own a sunglass shop in Seattle. You know, that's the one thing. I mean, Darren, of course it's going to be cloudy. Of course it's going to be in the 40s or 50s. And it may not rain the entire game, but it'll come sideways for a good 5 minutes, and you'll get soaked from head to toe, and then that'll be your lot in life for the rest of the day. That's what's going to happen.
I feel like he's already miserable.
That's what's going to
happen.
happen.
We haven't even gotten there yet.
And you got to pack all the rain gear.
Have you ever considered laminating some of your pregame notes?
I thought you were going to ask if he considered laminating himself.
What does
Dani sounds like most of the equipment guys on the sideline. Like Calvisi, after 20 years, you haven't figured out like some of those plastic sheets to put your notes inside. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
It's a fair question.
Shout out to the EQ staff. I made the same mistake in Green Bay. My notes, I got up to the press box after being rained on pregame, and they were gone.
Narrator, and she was very, very angry about it.
I was not very, very angry.
Okay, very angry.
Put a couple of tablets into the CapEx budget, okay? So when you have to go paper, it can all be digital, and make sure they're waterproof.
I was just gonna say,
Yes, that'll work, and that'll do it for this edition of Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.